Hello everyone, welcome back to the Veiled Cottage Witch. I'm Joey, the Veiled Cottage Witch, and today I wanted to kind of touch base with you guys. It's been a while. So what's been going on with me? I stopped working at the shop that I was doing readings, tarot readings out of. I'm now staying home. I'm not a housewife, I'm a garden wife, just so we have that understood. Sorry for the ums. I have really been pulled to really invest my time and energy and business into my herbal practice. I have always been pulled towards herbs, but I've never really tried to make products and sell them. So this is very challenging for me, which I love because I love a challenge. It's my Aries moon. It's just rules my emotions. I also had a double surgery, hysterectomy and bladder sling. Two areas of my life that have given me the most trouble. I can't tell you how many days, working days I missed because of one of those two problems. Either it was urinary tract infections, kidneys, or my menstrual issues. So those are all taken care of, and I am such a happier camper. Now, in my practice, I'm not really doing tarot readings anymore. I am working with energy, which is very similar to working with plant spirits. I have a massage table now, and I work what's called therapeutic touch. Although I do not actually touch you. You get up on my massage table, fully dressed, and I just do energy work. I find where your energy centers are unbalanced, then we work to unbalance those and do a nice energy clearing. So many people need this done. So I really felt called to do that. So I invested in a massage table, and hopefully I will get some clients very soon that will be very comfortable and that it will work for. So been doing that. And mainly the only tarot readings I do anymore are energy readings, where I read your energy according to the cards. I do not do predictive tarot anymore. I do not do tarot just for entertainment. There has to be healing involved for me to be right with it, if that makes sense. So, on to the main part of the video. Now that you know where I've been and what I've been doing. So, a lot of things inspired my herbal practice, but it wasn't until I grew my own garden and started to really be disciplined in that and devoted in that. And even like establishing a daily practice where I would go around my garden, and maybe at the end of this video I'll actually take you outside and let you see the garden. Walking around and saying hi to taking evaluation of every plant. Oh, you need some sun, let's turn you toward the sun. Oh, you look dry, you need some watering, or I need to trim you up and prune you. All of my herbs in my garden have a personality, and I've really gotten to know them. And I think that is the key. Because if you don't know, if you haven't sat down with a mugwort plant, you really don't know how protective it is. I mean, you can buy the herbs on the shelf at the store, at any witchy store. Excuse me. And you can tell that it was machine made. I mean, nobody picked it by hand. This is probably just like got mowed down and chopped up, and there's no emotional connection. So I think that specifically was what stopped me from making my own herbal products. It's like you wouldn't want to work with the Morrigan, the Celtic deity of war and shape-shifting and prophecy. You wouldn't want to work with her just to do this one spell. That's not how relationships work. You can't just, hey, mighty Morrigan, come help me just this one time. She's gonna go, who the fuck are you, right? So the relationship to that plant to me is like a deitic relationship. You have to show up. You have to nurture and tend. Just like we give offerings to our deities, we give offerings to our plants by watering them, by taking care of them and trimming them, and then actually using them. I have felt such a wonderful feeling when I take a plant that I've grown from seed and it's gotten big and beautiful and plentiful, and then I trim that, I harvest that, and then once they're dry, maybe I use them in an incense, and then I burn that incense in a ceremony. So powerful. You really begin to, now I get the relationship. It's kind of a reward for all the tending that you've done for that herb. So that's kind of how I got into this, is I developed a relationship with the land, with the plant, and really follow it all through the relationship from seed to lighting that incense. So wonderful process that really, really inspired me. The herbal products that I do make are, I only do a few because it's a lot of work. I do healing salves. I do incense, loose incense. I do sprays, spell powders, tinctures, herb bundles, and tea. I usually don't make a big thing of teas to sell, but I usually will make a blend for somebody and send them home with it. Love doing that. It's like I'm an herb doctor, and this is your prescription. Take this once before bedtime for nightmares. So done. The herbal products that I do sell, I will show later on in the video. I just wanted to go over a few things about what inspired me. So if you know my channel, you know I'm all about books. I cannot get enough books. This shelf is full of books that I have not read yet. So good times. I have plenty to do because I don't work in the public anymore. We're in my office, so it's so nice. So books that inspired me. Now I'm gonna get a couple eye rolls for this, but Scott Cunningham May he rest in peace. Scott Cunningham was the first book that I ever read, and it was Earth, Air, Fire, and Water. It was the first book I ever read on witchcraft. And I was like, oh, I can do this. This isn't evil. This isn't, something I shouldn't be messing with. This is nature. And I've been out in nature growing up. Seriously, they couldn't get me inside. Always outside, making potions, mud pies, all of that. I think the people who did that are now herbalists. So I am Udemy certified, but I want to get big time certified after I receive my PhD in metaphysical science. That's when I'll be doing it for real. But for my professional business right now, just a handful of things. Once I get to going to herbalism school, a whole new door will be open for me, I'm sure. So, books that have inspired my herbal practice. This bad boy, Magical Herbalism by Scott Cunningham, invaluable. It's a small book, so it's an easy read. And I did mark some places that I really liked. In the first half of the book, he talks about harvesting, identifying, drying, and storing herbs. And a lot of herbal books don't go into that. So you get frustrated when you're not sure how to dry them. There are several ways that I've tried, and I think different herbs call for different things, but moving on. So I really liked in this book here the gathering chant that is here, and I'm going to read that because it's been a while since I've read it. Thou hast grown by favor of the sun, the moon, and the dew. I make this intercession, ye herb, I beseech thee to be of benefit for me and my art, for thy virtues are unfailing. Thou art the dew of all the gods, the eye of the sun and light of the moon, the beauty and glory of the sky, the mystery of the earth. I purify thee, so that whatever is wrought by me with thee may, in all its powers, have a good and speedy effect with good success. Be purified by my prayer and be powerful. So mote it be. I just love that. It is just this little chant that you can say while you're harvesting your herbs. I found that very nice. And then later on in the book, he talks about fluid condensers. So fluid condensers are elementally made. So there's a fire condenser, a water condenser, an air condenser, an earth condenser, and a spirit condenser. What these are you take these herbs that correspond, let's do fire, that correspond with fire, and of course they have lists for us here, and then you boil those down, and I believe you mix oils with them, and it becomes like a magical booster. So if you don't have the element of fire, let's say you don't do candles, you can use this fluid condenser of fire to add that fire. And I just thought that was so cool. Here's a list of the charts of what herb belongs to what element. So you can pick and choose intuitively which ones that are available to you and put it together. And I'm fascinated by that. I think that's going to be I've had this on the back burner for a while. I think I'm going to go ahead and do it. And then he talks about laying out the garden and where things should go. And if you want to make a pentagram garden, my friend Allie has one of these. It's so beautiful. Or if you wanted to do sun and moon and spirit in the middle, it's just such an inspiring book. So Magical Herbalism by Scott Cunningham. And then this book has been so worn. Oh my gosh. It's been through the ringer. This is Incense, Oils, and Brews, again by Scott Cunningham. This gives you basic recipes, but it also gives you some hints on how to make that. Later on, we'll talk about things that I don't make. And one of the big things that I do not make and inspired me from this book is I do not make fresh herbal infused oils. Why? Well, fresh herbs contain water. And water and oil don't mix. In fact, the water tends to make the infused oil slimy and also moldy, because you're going to infuse this for 5 weeks. And if you put fresh oils in, let's say almond oil or grapeseed oil, whatever your carrier oil is, even if you shake it every day, maybe you put a preservative in there, it's still going to be slimy. It's also why I don't make fresh herbal tea. I do not like slimy tea. So mainly I work with fresh herbs only for my tinctures or my honeys, because it gets strained down. It doesn't mold for some reason. So I will only use dry herbs in my oils because Dr. Scott Cunningham said so. This book has so many good resources. This right here is just simple incenses that you can use by themselves. So if you want to use, for instance, copal, you can burn it for protection, cleansing, purification, to promote spirituality, and to purify quartz crystal and other stones before use in magic. Then we'll go on and look at some more sections. I could read this book to you, you guys. So cool. How to dilute essential oils. That's been very, very helpful, because I was the big dummy that before I started learning, I would use oils straight out of the bottle. And while it was very fragrant, it was also very flammable. So I burned a lot of herbs, and I burned a candle down in like 0 time, because I used essential oil, which are made with alcohol, fire, burn. Lesson learned, right? Then they talk about base oils and all of the oils that are recommended. Inks you can make. I haven't yet done that, but I'm excited to do that. It's just such an inspiring. And then they have sachet recipes. Like an anti-sorcery sachet has 1 part dill seed, 1 part flaxseed, and 1 part peony root. I tend to just go to my correspondences and choose them intuitively, but you know, it's good to see recipes and see how they're made, and then go off on your own. Now, what I really found invaluable, oh my gosh, my words, is the table of magical substitutions. This was everything, because there are so many, like I can't work with belladonna. it's highly, highly toxic, and it's really hard to get and really hard to grow in Arizona. So according to this, if I wanted to use belladonna and I didn't have it, I could use tobacco. Say I wanted to use carnation and I don't have carnations, I can use rose petals anointed with a few drops of clove oil. So, I mean, it goes on with the substitutions. Highly recommend this book. I haven't yet attempted every recipe in here, but I have done enough to where, okay, now I can go off and do my own things. This teaches you the formula, and then you just plug in your own ingredients. Love that. And one more, Scott Cunningham's Encyclopedia of Magical Herbs. Why do I love this book so much? Because they include the Latin names, the folk names, the lore of how it was used medicinally and how it was used magically. Fascinating. For instance, dandelion. The folk names of dandelion, which the Latin name is, I'm not even going to try to say. I will make a fool out of myself. But the folk names are so cool. He has a whole list of them. Blowball, cankerwort, lion's tooth, pissabed, my personal favorite, priest crown, puffball, swine snoot, wild endive, and white endive. So quite a few here. And then he goes into how the herb was, I mean, he has a few correspondences here and then goes right into the magical uses. So this is like, to find out how long you will live, blow the seeds off the head of a dandelion. You will live as many years as there are seeds left on the head. So just some things that have been used, the folklore behind the herbs, that helps me get a good idea of how to approach that herb for plant spirit medicine. So I love that. Plant spirit medicine is such a wonderful thing. It really, it helps you to tune in. I mean, we are all of the earth, right? We are all living beings. If you believe in animism, which I do, the mugwort plant has an aura, has chakras, has an energy. And working with that energy, that's plant spirit medicine. Love it. I'm doing more and more research every day to make that a priority when working with any herbs. And then the last section is the tables. Oh my gosh. At the end of this book, he has tables and tables of intentions, and then he lists the herbs specifically for that. So like, to attain beauty, avocado, catnip, flax, ginseng, maidenhair, and yerba santa. So love that. This book should be on your bookshelf. If you work with herbs of any kind, even if it's just tea, this book, invaluable. Okay, moving on to another author, Blackthorn, Amy Blackthorn. I love her writing. She's so down to earth. And this book, Botanical Magic, got me into essential oils and incorporating essential oils into almost all of my products. I had no idea. So she talks about infused oils. She talks about the use of essential oils and how they can be used, and myths. She busts some myths about essential oils in here. There are recipes. There's this lovely recipe to make incense to banish evil. Angelica root, anise seed, ground cloves, dragon's blood, myrrh, black peppercorn, and mix it all up and you put it on a incense charcoal. Done. I love that recipe. I might have to make that. She has a recipe here for Florida water. I've seen a few Florida water recipes that, quite frankly, have been ridiculous. I don't think that you need 7 different waters from 7 different sources to make your Florida water. I'm just gonna leave that there. This has just clove essential oil, lavender essential oil, orange essential oil, and alcohol. Easy peasy. I love how easy she makes things. And then she has a full page of correspondences for all of the essential oils that she talks about in here. So if you're inspired to work with essential oils, this is your book. It's quite a big one, but I think I read it in one weekend because I was like, yes, this is what I want to do. So, and now I have a huge collection of essential oils. Thanks, I made Blackthorn. All right, saving the best for last. So if you know me at all, I am fascinated by Corinne Boyer. Corinne Boyer she's the quintessential cottage witch, is what she is. I will just refer to a couple pictures in here and you can see why. Get the certain picture I'm looking for. There we go. This picture right here. I said, I want to be that. Here I am. So she taught me about using nettles for protection wards. They're up there, right over my door. Okay. I really need to get down to brass tacks because I don't want to make this video terribly long. But her descriptions of each herb, by the way, didn't even show you the title. Under the Bramble Arch was the first one I read. There's a sequence, there's 3 of them, but I'm showing you in the order that I read them. I was actually given this book by my deity, by Bridget, my healing goddess, literally in my dream, handing it to me. I had to get it. I mean, you had to do it. So what I love about this book, she goes into pages and pages and pages of lore. Lore for healing, lore for hexing, cursing, everything that the herb can do, she touches on. She also touches on how she personally works with these herbs, and she puts out some recipes as well. Now the recipe back here for infused honey, if you've had any of my infused honeys, came straight from here. And I really did like obey the instructions. But her double boiler method is now my double boiler method. The pictures in here of her craft are so inspiring, and I knew this is what I wanted. So this book started it all. This book inspired me not to just read about herbs, but to start working with them. And then I read Under the Witching Tree, which is all about trees. She goes in again, charms that you can use. She goes into drying and storing properly your tree samples. Again, the folklore is page after page. It's so fascinating to hear how each one of these were used. So, for instance, Western red cedar. Historically, every part of the red cedar was used from cradle to grave. There's much to be said about its physical uses, but for the purpose of this work, spiritual and medicinal uses will be the focus. This is a tree that is very close to my heart and one that I have strived to work with in my own ways, rather than culturally appropriate from the First Nations people. She's so aware of cultural appropriation. She's done her homework, and it's everything that you would want. You know, magical uses, medicinal uses, recipes, everything. So this is actually book 1, but I read it out of sequence. I don't follow directions very well. And then finally, Plants of the Devil, which is very, very thin. But oh my gosh. So I learned about all my banes and how to make Listen, I wouldn't curse or hex people unless they deserve it. Period. But I learned how to make lethal ointments. I learned what trees are poisonous, very helpful. And there is, in every baneful plant, she always talks about how to use it medicinally, because that's the main function of it, is to use it medicinally. But she does go into some cursing lore with it. So for instance, in this one, which one is she talking about here? The rowan tree. Okay. Some cursing lore comes from the secrets of Albertus Magnus, comes the use of verbena worms. Oh, she's talking about vervain. In a death spell, it tells of vervain. If it be put in a safe ground, after 8 weeks, worms shall be endangered, which if they shall touch my man, he shall die anon. So, if you want to start working with baneful herbs, start growing them, using them in your folk practice, no judgment, here's your book. I have to show you this one picture in here. It's the best. Look at that! I kind of want to blow it up and put it on my wall. I just love it. So those are the books that inspired me. So moving on, favorite things that I make. If there are things that I like to make, it's usually from plants that I've grown from seed. My favorite thing to make is my incense, in which I will show you. It comes in a little 2-ounce bottle, and it does come with a little tweezer. And this one is protection. The ingredients are rosemary, rue, vervain, angelica, mullein, nettle, mugwort, garden sage, eucalyptus, rose, dragon's blood, resin, clary sage, pine, and rosemary essential oils. This smells amazing. I want to light some on fire right now. So I only do loose incense. I don't do sticks or cones. It's so much trouble. So I just make everything work really good in here. So this would be my favorite thing that I make, is my incense. It's so complex yet so simple. And of course, I was inspired by Scott Cunningham's Incense oils and Brews. There are things that I refuse to make, and we already talked about fresh plants and infused oils. I don't make stick or cone incense. I just don't. I haven't yet ventured into soaps, but it is on my list for what I'd like to make in the future. I would like to do facial oils. I use facial oils, so it's only natural that I would want to make them, at least for myself, test it out. And then if it does really well, I will sell it in my shop. I also would really love to make my own shampoos and conditioners. That's something I'm messing with chemicals there, and I'm a little iffy about that because I never took chemistry. So we'll see. We'll see. If I only make what I'm making right now, I think I'd be happy just changing the recipes up a little bit. We'll see. I'm not counting anything out, but it might be nice further down the road. Since I can make salves can easily be made into creams and lotions. That's another thing that could possibly be something that I do. But let's just talk about my favorite parts of having an herbal practice. Number one, collecting jars. I like them small. I like them mini. I like them, like my spell powders are in these little jars. Aren't they cute? Bigger jars, unique looking jars. I don't care. I love jars. But really, learning the folk names of the herbs, that's my second favorite thing. We talked about dandelion being known as pissabed, among other things. Angelica is masterwort, and mullein is lamb's ears, or nature's toilet paper. I love learning and incorporating the folk names, because if you really look at the folk names, you can kind of understand what they do. I love also learning the lore on how each herb was used medicinally and magically from ancient times. Fascinating to me. That's why I love the Corinne Boyer books. She's not shy on the folklore, which I love. Other than that, making things for my community, whether I am making a headache tea for someone who suffers from headaches, or if I am making a special incense blend for a Sabbath that I'm hosting. Love to do that. Giving back to my community through my herbal practice. Sometimes I'll have an open harvest and I can have people come and just harvest what they want and just take it, because I probably won't be able to use all of it. Things are growing crazy this season, so it goes into a lot of work. I mean, there's certain herbs that I use for powders. There's certain herbs I use for tinctures, but I cannot possibly keep up. So I do have people come over and take some. In fact, I think there was a week where I had students coming over, and every day I said, okay, what are you going to take home? And I would send them off with a bag of mint or mullein or angelica, whatever's growing crazy. So if you ever come for an appointment, I will probably give you some herbs. Wonderful bonus. So I've been asked, what is my secret recipe for my incense? I thought about this for a while and I was like, do I really want to tell people? I will tell you the basic formula that I use. And it's FLOWR, flower, without the E. So the F stands for flowers. So the first ingredient I put in my incense are flower petals. L is for leaves, so that's any herbal plant matter. oils for the O. I use essential oils, pure essential oils, because they have alcohol and they will dry really quickly. So usually I'll have a batch in a bowl and I'll just drop a certain amount of oil and then mix it up. And as I'm mixing it, it dries. It gives a lasting smell to the incense, and it also helps it to kind of catch fire a little bit easier because of the alcohol. W is for woods, using bark or using, clippings. It's a little harder to do that, but you can usually find, like at magic shops, you can find like willow bark and mesquite bark. What's the other one that I use? White oak bark. Mainly though that, and then I make sure that they're chopped up finely instead of big pieces of wood. And then R is for resins. I never knew that you put oils and resins into incense. I thought it was just powdered herbs, but it's not. And one thing about my incense is it's different than the powders that I sell. And you can even tell incense should be, this is my incense. Incense should have bigger pieces because powders burn like that, so you want this to burn a little bit. You got to give it something to burn, right? So whole pieces of flowers, as you could see, go in there, and it's not finely powdered. I do use a mortar and pestle, but just a little bit, not anything crazy. Now for my spell powders, this one's banishing. You can tell that's powdered down quite a bit because I don't use my powders I don't set my powders on fire. My powders are used once I anoint a candle, it can go on there. I like to, if you've been over, you've seen me do this. I like taper candles, and I like to inscribe those candles, and then I like to anoint them, and then I like to take a little powder and then rub it in, and then you can see the sigil. So love that. A little trick I learned. I am not sure where, but I did learn it somewhere. I wish I could, pick up that file in my head and get you all that information, but yeah. So my powders are specifically used, like in the way I just described, or front doors, windowsills, doorknobs, under your mat, anything, doormat, anything like that. Sometimes I will put a little bit of spell powder on a petition and then burn that petition, and it is wonderful. I love doing that. The way I do my infused oils is very similar to how I do my incense, but I add a carrier oil to it and then I strain it. There's not a whole lot that goes into making my sprays, and I know that they're expensive. I did inventory, and I did a breakdown of all the ingredients, and I use a lot of essential oils in my sprays. So that's what makes the sprays so expensive. Plus this bottle will last you 6 months. There's one that I use almost every day, and it's not even down here. So it is an investment. There's a plane. Okay. So this is probably, I know this is the most expensive thing that I sell. I mean, you get 4 ounces for $17.50. I used to sell them for $10 until I found out what they were worth. So, once you know, you can't unknow. And then I have my deity anointing oils. This one is Odin. So what I've done with these is I've talked to a few people who work with Odin, and I say, you know, what plants go with Odin? And it turns out quite a lot. So in this one, I have juniper berry, linden, mugwort, nettle, fennel, dragon's blood resin, with juniper berry, yarrow, fennel, and chamomile essential oils. Smells amazing. So the deity anointing oils would be good for your deity candles, or your statues, tools that you use to call them, petitions, for boons you could anoint, or anoint yourself when you're working with that deity. And then I only have 2 salves that I make. One is the Calendula Wound Heal. This is magic. It has helped my friend Allie with her severe psoriasis. Now I can't even tell that she has it. She uses this religiously. Continual use is the key. It's not going to be a miracle thing and use it once and never have to use it again. If you use it consistently, a lot of skin irritations and skin problems will be cleared up. Magic. That one has calendula flowers, almond oil, 100% organic beeswax with rose, clary sage, lavender, and rosemary essential oils. Love my calendula wound heal. The next one I have is my arnica muscle relief. This is so nice for my arthritis in my shoulders. It really, really helps. My friend Brad used this and he was able to, usually he can only walk for a little while. But when he used this on his knees, he was able to walk further. So he's getting more exercise, so he's healthier, and that's just awesome. So Arnica Muscle Relief has, of course, arnica flowers, almond oil, beeswax with clove, eucalyptus, patchouli, and lavender essential oils. Love this stuff. Those are my products. I have my intention oils that are made the same way as my other infused oils, but they're not deitic based. So this will kind of reach a wider audience. This one is called Break the Chain. This one is good for if you're doing a spell to break a nasty habit, or maybe to break it off with an abusive partner. Breaking the chain. This was inspired twofold. The first thing that inspired me is the Devil card in tarot. When I'm trying to do a spell for breaking an addiction, I will turn the Devil upside down, breaking the chains of addiction. The second thing I got was named after Fleetwood Mac, The Chain, one of my favorite Fleetwood Mac songs. So, Break the Chain. Love it, love it. So, the last thing I want to talk about, I know I've been rambling for a while. Get used to it. I don't shut up. Why do I call my herbal practice intuition-based? Well, when I am forming a recipe, okay, let me get this book out for an example. When I'm creating a recipe, say I want to make a sachet for protection. So I come back here. I've got all these herbs onto the next 2 columns. Am I going to use every single one of those? Absolutely not. First of all, I don't even have all of those. And second of all, if you use too many things, the intention gets muddled. I have found that to be true in every single thing that I make. If you are overcomplicating it, it's going to be overcomplicated for the universe to give you that overly complicated intention. So what I do is I read along and I come to cumin. I don't like the smell of cumin, so I'm not going to use it. First of all, I'm not growing it. I don't have it available. I don't. Here's another one, coconut. Don't like coconut. And maybe you'll come down here to something that you're like, why? Ginseng is a protective herb, but I don't use it as that. Ginseng for me is energetic, it's projective. You know, you drink a ginseng tea, you're out the door accomplishing whatever you want, climbing a mountain, running a marathon, whatever you want. I don't consider it to be a protective herb. So by that little exercise, you see that you can take that list way down. Maybe you've never worked with a certain herb and you'd like to try it. This is your chance. If you always go to rosemary and sage for protection, maybe try foxglove and garlic. Garlic has always been used for protection. So that's a little bit about how I intuitively pick the herbs. Yes, I know it's down to what's available, but not just that, because I could have a long list. Look, I only do protection, prosperity, and healing spells, and banishing. But that's healing. So all of my herbs are going to be geared toward that. I was actually taking an inventory of all my herbs around my ritual circle. Almost every single one is for protection. And I didn't do that on purpose. So, you know, listening to that yes or no voice inside your head. No, don't use that. Yes, use this. No, don't use that. Yes, use this. I mean, there's no way Scott Cunningham intended you to use that entire list, right? Narrow it down to what you have and narrow it down to what works well with you. If I haven't developed a relationship with an herb, I'm very likely not going to use it, period. So that takes time. This is my 3rd year working with herbs. I can't believe I've only been doing this 3 years. But before that, I would do spells, but I didn't have an herbal practice. You know, I bought all my herbs from the magic store and stored them in jars and never talked to them and just used them as needed. My spell work was not as effective. Now, all of my products, all of my spells come from me, come from that relationship that I have with the herbs. And I think that's so important. If you want to have an herbal practice, it takes dedication, devotion, and hard work. It really does. You have to be mindful. And I knew if I was still working in town, I would not have time to devote to my herbal practice. So now I'm doing energy work and herbal products, and that takes up a lot of my time. So that's all I think I have to say about my herbal practice. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. I will be putting all of these books in the description below so that you can have a look-see and see if it works for you. And I will also have a link to my Facebook page where you could buy my herbal products from me. Alrighty, I am on the porch of my cottage, and I'm gonna quickly show you what I have going on with my garden. So I'm not real steady. I'm used to the tripod, but let me take you around and introduce you. This is Angelica. Got quite a few new growth right here. Angelica is wonderful for protection magically, but also for anything that has inflammation, like arthritis pain. This is wonderful for. Then mugwort. Oh my gosh, it looks so beautiful. Hey, it waves at us. So mugwort I use for psychic protection, but also for pain relief and inflammation as well. It also helps PMS symptoms, which I no longer have. Then we have oregano, who's going crazy. So I use oregano for banishing, and basically it has a lot of healing components that I have yet to work out. So I'm still working with him. And then lavender and garden sage or green sage. Love it. It's beautiful. My two favorite colors right there. Fennel. You wouldn't know it, but I just gave it a haircut day before yesterday. It's a monster. This is milkweed. This was given to me in tiny little pots, and now it's a beast. It's a beast. Chamomile, you can see over there. I use this for a lot of teas. And a couple of my, I think I have chamomile in my road opener powder as well. And then we have stevia. This is how I sweeten my tea. If you've had my teas, you know that I only use stevia. These are snapdragons, so pretty. Mainly use snapdragons for protection. This is skullcap, and it's gonna be ready to flower very soon. This is, if you've gotten a headache tincture from me, this is where I made it from. And then this tall beast is mullein. This top is trying to bud and trying to flower. So pretty. The texture on here is just amazing. And then I have rosemary here. My babies are finally getting bigger, and then my tall guys are already at attention here. I have a little row of thyme here. And then these are honeysuckles, and we've got some blooms. Look at that. No, oh, it's waving at us as well. Then we have fields of mint. So this sweet mint, lemon mint, spearmint, and peppermint. And then this is my nettle plant. So it's very spiky. The only place you can touch it without gloves is right at the very top right there. I did not get poked, but yeah, I need gloves and almost a hazmat suit to go in here and trim that. Over one more thing I want to show you is my beautiful yarrow plant. Oh my gosh, look at that. This yellow is the most yellowest yellow I've ever seen. Crazy, crazy. And then our cute little catnip field. And then I will take you to, those are pretty. I will take you to the greenhouse where I dry a lot of herbs. There are some more herb bundles. I was drying snapdragons, oregano. It's my basil plant. It needs a little bit of extra love, so it's in here. More things I'm drying, and then foxglove. I love these guys. Highly poisonous, so I try to keep them in here because the cats usually don't come in here. That's about it as far as my herbs go. I think they're growing so well for me. So that's all for today. Please be kind to others, be kind to yourself, live magically, and blessed be.